Joy, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
She's on to share her story at 42. How many weeks postpartum are you?
Yeah, 10 weeks postpartum now. It was 2 months.
Tell us about finding out you were pregnant because this was a complete surprise.
It was. I had been just tracking my cycle for 2 years, and that had been going really well. So I made a lot of lifestyle changes, and my cycle changed with that. Even before this pregnancy, I had a few pregnancy scares where my cycle was just running longer, and I was thinking maybe I was pregnant, and then my menstruation would start, and so you'd be like, "Great, best day ever." My previous two pregnancies took a toll on me at 33 and 35. Our girls are 19 months apart, and so that made it harder. We thought we were done having kids, and I was excited to be the active mom, doing all the things with my kids. We were really getting into a new phase of life and parenting, and God has other plans.
Will you tell us about your lifestyle change that you mentioned?
Of course, I really started focusing on gut health. And being a dietitian, I never thought I had an unhealthy gut, but I had stubborn weight. I was a lifelong athlete, but I still had stubborn weight. I battled hypoglycemia, where my blood sugars would just tank if I didn't eat every 2 to 3 hours, especially when you're dealing with blood sugars, that is related with hormones. When I focused on gut health and cleared out the candida yeast. That's one thing that's unique about what I did with the gut health products. And I no longer had to eat every 2 to 3 hours. The weight came off and my anxiety cleared from it too. But with that, my cycle did change. I had a longer cycle, and that made it harder to use that kind of method of birth control.
How long were your cycles when they were extended with your change?
31 days. I was pretty regular at 28 days for 2 years. Previously, it worked very well. And then when it was to 31 days, the menstruation was only 5 days, 3 to 5 days. And so everything was shorter, but the rest was longer. A few months previously, I was wondering if I was pregnant because my period hadn't started like it was supposed to, but then it did.
You weren't shocked when you didn't start your cycle?
At first, no, I wasn't. I don't know how much people share on this, but in August was a busy month for my running. I did 2 relay races that are long distance relay races with the team. And just it was a busier schedule than normal. And we only had intercourse one time in August. Like there was only
that's all it took, apparently.
That's all it took. And that's also so when I finally stopped being in denial and took the pregnancy test, I pulled him aside and showed him. And we were just in the bathroom, like laughing hysterically at me. My husband was just like, how? that was his, it's like, how is this possible? And I'm like, yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
How were you feeling about it? Were you excited or happy? Were you just so shocked?
Shocked because it was right before I turned 42 that I found out it wasn't in our plan. And I was worried about going through it again at 42 because it had been hard. I recognized that I was at a much better place in my life. Those health changes had me at a much better place mentally. After some time thinking about what was ahead of us, I started seeing the positives about getting a chance to be a mom with a better mental health. That was definitely what made me excited because I dealt with anxiety a lot with our first 2 daughters. I missed a lot. And so I got excited about the fact that this was a chance to have a baby and fully experience the mom experience.
Let's get into your pregnancy. Tell us all about it. How was it?
Besides not having my period, the sign that I couldn't be in denial about was tender breasts. I was Googling menopause, premenopause, perimenopause symptoms, trying to say that's what's happening. And I even asked my sisters, because my mom passed away 8 years ago, do you guys know when she started menopause? Just trying to convince myself that maybe that's what was happening. Other than that, though, it was pretty easy. With this, I didn't have anything dramatic happening. And so I kind of could understand why sometimes people don't realize they're pregnant for so long because of my blood sugars being more stable. I didn't have the weight gain that I had before. With my other pregnancies, it was about 10 pounds every month of weight gain because my blood sugars were more sensitive and I needed to eat every 2 hours. My first pregnancy, I gained 90, then did get most of it off. And the second pregnancy, I gained 2 to 70 pounds. And this one, it was 35 pounds is what I gained.
What about exercising and diet during pregnancy?
Yeah. I had done relay races over the summer. I had to coach relay being pregnant and not knowing it. I also had COVID and didn't know it. So I had COVID, didn't know it. I was pregnant and didn't know it.
Wow.
And yeah, still was my best race that I had.
Awesome.
I continued running up until about Thanksgiving. So by the end of the start of my second trimester, I was no longer running, but I still walked a lot. I was the health and PE teacher at our local school. And so that kept me on my feet doing 16,000 steps a day.
Yeah. Was it just uncomfortable by that point to not run anymore?
Yeah, the first time my pregnancy belly started to grow, I remember jogging and then being sore in a different way, that my ab muscles, because they were starting to get stretched, the jogging made them sore. It was a different experience. After that, I just went to walking. I would still, not only with the steps, but would walk with my classes at least 2 miles a day, and then along with all the other steps. And I did strength training as long as I could. I kept with what was comfortable. I was teaching a women's strength training class. So I checked my doctor about, is there anything I should be worried about? And he just said that your body will start to tell you when it's getting uncomfortable. You'll know that you should restrict certain movements.
Okay. Speaking of doctor, did you use the same OB you did with your 2 girls?
I did. So I had the same doctor deliver all 3 babies. It's a little farther away, but I didn't mind it. It's really an only 15-minute extra drive from where we live. It was worth it to stick with somebody I was comfortable with.
How far away is he?
It takes about an hour. Most of it's on a highway.
How did your doctor react to your age?
One reason why I for sure wanted to go back to him is that he didn't have any concerns about it at all. And even when I gained 90 pounds with my first pregnancy, afterwards, I think it was maybe one of the follow-ups after I delivered, I thanked him for not having it be an issue and bringing it up. And because I know it wasn't ideal, you're not supposed to gain that much weight. And he just said that there wasn't any complications to it. So it wasn't he didn't need to address it. I appreciated that. And so when the age being 42 and showing up in my first appointment, I asked, what do I need to worry about? He listed off, I think, complications that could happen that are higher risk. For me, the baby, really, there wasn't what he listed off to be concerned about. I didn't worry after hearing him say that and knowing my body was the healthiest it had ever been when I conceived.
Awesome. And was there any products that helped you through pregnancy?
The gut health products definitely helped my blood sugars be stable, and that's why I didn't have the weight gain. I didn't have any problems with constipation. With my second one, definitely towards the end, needed a stool softener and dealt with constipation. And this one, even after delivery, that's something that you can deal with, especially if you use pain meds during delivery. Pain meds just slow everything down. And with everything being stretched, and sometimes people have episiotomies, that first bowel movement after you deliver a baby can be scary, especially if there was tearing or episiotomy. I didn't deal with any worry about that at all, where within 24 hours of delivery, I was having bowel movements every day.
What about cravings?
Cucumbers is something that I was never really a fan of before, and I loved cucumbers throughout this pregnancy. And spicy things like pickled jalapenos, pepperoncinis, that salty, vinegary, spicy products were definitely, I craved those. And I didn't really have cravings with my other 2 pregnancies.
So interesting how that works.
Yeah.
What about did you find out you were having a boy when you were pregnant?
Yes, I chose to do the blood draw where they do just genetic screening for chromosome conditions. And with that, they can tell gender, which just amazes me. So I got the call on the results and they said everything looked normal. They asked me if I wanted to know the gender, and we had already had a name picked out because we figured we're having a girl. That's all my family has. And when they said I was having a boy, I actually started crying on the phone. My husband had walked in the room and I hung up. He thought something was wrong because I'm crying from a phone call. And it was pretty neat to call my dad and say he's going to have a grandson when he didn't have any sons of his own.
And how did you prep? You probably didn't take any classes or anything because this is your third child.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I prepped the least for sure with this pregnancy. I didn't pack a bag ready to go to the hospital until maybe 2 weeks before, because I'd gone longer with my previous pregnancies. My first one, I was 12 days past to the due date when I agreed to be induced because my body was not showing any signs that it was going into labor. And each pregnancy, I did have Braxton Hicks that I thought I was going into labor, but no, I went to the hospital each pregnancy with the false alarm, which kind of makes me feel a little dumb, but the nursing staff were nice about it.
Yeah,
So,
what about a birth plan? You definitely planned in a hospital. Were you planning to have an epidural?
I wasn't opposed to an epidural, but I wanted to go as long as I could without an epidural. With my first one, because I had to be induced with Pitocin, I only made it for about 5 hours after contraction started. They were just 2:10, had the epidural, and then she was born 6 hours later. That epidural worked wonderfully, except afterwards, I don't know if it was the Pitocin or the epidural, but I held on to 20 pounds of fluid in my legs. My legs had a lot of edema that finally came off a week later, and it's gone super quick. So that was uncomfortable. And with my second, I did everything I could for labor to start. I went to a pad thai restaurant asking how spicy can you make it to help induce labor. So their scale went 5 and I went with the 4 out of 5 for spiciness. I was walking uphill for 1.5 miles of my in-laws' house. It would take 45 minutes just to get up to the top. That pregnancy, about 2 days after the due date, I went into labor, but that morning I had already was scheduled to be induced, but labor started at 3 a.m. So that was nice and only needed the epidural for the last 30 minutes. It worked great because it was so short. It didn't have any lasting effects. Same thing with this delivery. Went with being induced, but ended up not really needing Pitocin. They gave me some, which softens the cervix. And then that did enough where they broke my water. Then labor went very quickly once that happened. I only had the epidural for about 30 minutes or an hour, but it only worked half of my body. And that wasn't a pleasant experience of, where half my body was numb and then needing to adjust me to help gravity help the epidural flow to the other half of my body. Yeah.
When did you start having the Braxton Hicks?
Braxton Hicks started more with this pregnancy, but I traveled more with this pregnancy. It was more associated with traveling. And when you're dehydrated, it can cause you to have Braxton Hicks. January, let's see, so I was due May 7th. So January is still in the second trimester. I would have some.
Wow, that's early.
Yeah, they weren't bad. I would rub the sides of it to try to soothe it. And that was after I traveled to Florida. Then I did a road trip right before at 35 weeks. I drove from Oregon to Utah. I went to the Zion National Park for a conference.
Wow.
It was a very small group, but wasn't sure about that. I asked my doctor if I should be concerned. He just said that you take lots of breaks and stay hydrated. As long as you stay hydrated, you'll have to take a lot of breaks. I think we drove 13 hours the first day. And so once I got through that first day, I wasn't too worried about it, but there was some Braxton Hicks following that as well. But the one that I thought was labor, it turns out we actually had norovirus going through our family. My daughters had been sick 5 days previously, and I didn't have any symptoms and felt fine until I was there at the hospital. Then I got nauseous and I was dehydrated and they gave me IVs. My baby's heart rate went really high. The nurse that was taking care of me wanted to keep me in induced labor, was that his heart rate went to up to 200. They ended up giving me 2 liters of fluid and sent me home, but the doctor let me go. And so it really was actually a blessing that I did think I was in labor. So
Yeah.
that was just 5 days before I delivered.
And so you said that you were scheduled to be induced with this one?
This one I did schedule to be induced.
And how far along were you?
I was 39 plus 5 days.
Almost your due date.
Yeah, almost my due date. But he's the only one that came before my due date. And he's the biggest one too. He's almost by a pound.
Oh, what a coincidence. Walk us through that day and how it started and take us through to getting to the hospital.
We live over an hour away, so we left at about 4 a.m. I had my bags. I could tell contractions were kind of happening, but nothing too exciting. We checked in and they gave me that first round and hooked up everything to monitoring with the baby. It's just a waiting game for that meso to start working. Then it was 1 in the afternoon when my doctor was making his rounds, was going to come and check on me. He checked in the morning and then came back at 1, and things looked good enough to break my water. After that, things really started moving. The nurse was experienced enough from watching my contractions, and she was like, I'm going to get the delivery set up, ready, the delivery tray going, because your body is showing that things are moving along fast. I want to have everything prepared. I used the jacuzzi tub for the first time. I did like it. I only lasted maybe 3 contractions worth in there. So only maybe 15 minutes in the jacuzzi tub.
Why did you get out?
Right before I went in the jacuzzi tub, the nurse told me she wanted to get things ready for delivery, and the contractions were intense. I was just ready for the epidural.
Okay.
You only have a window of when you can get that epidural. If you wait too long, then you can't get it. I just didn't want to miss that window. I was ready. So it was nice, but yeah, I needed to move too.
Okay. So now you're out of the tub. And what time is it now?
It was about 3:30. Yeah, 3:30. And then the anesthesiologist probably got there about 4 o'clock. They paged him, and then that takes about 20 to 30 minutes for him to put the epidural in. When that started working, I could feel it start to working, but then when contractions would come, I would only feel it on my left side and lower left groin areas where it just continued to be super intense. But then my right side went completely numb, lower half of my body went completely numb, so that when they wanted me to change positions, they had to be moving me. I can only help so much because most of the epidural went on my right side. And they had the anesthesiologist come back in to try to help it. And they did eventually get me to a spot that was more comfortable. But there was about 5 minutes of pretty intense just pain that happened with moving me, contractions, and then also IVs being flushed and infiltrated. So
you only had the epidural working on one side, and you said they were trying to move you to get the medicine to the other side?
Yeah, to have gravity help flow it. I don't know exactly what happens when they insert the epidural. It is like an IV into your nervous system, your spinal cord. Maybe my back wasn't completely straight enough or something, but yeah, it flowed more when they started putting it in. It flowed more to my right side, and so they had me laying on my left to help it flow more to the right, because it's a pump. It's a bag that's pumping in me. It's not just a one-time dose.
And so that worked.
Yeah, that finally helped. So it took time, and it was definitely it was like an intense, the most intense menstrual cramp I'd ever had. One specific spot is what it was feeling.
Terrible.
I was so numb on the other and couldn't move. It made it a little bit more rough than just the contractions themselves would have been. But they'd encountered that before and knew what to do. Got some relief, and then the doctor was going to come back in at 5:30. And then when he did, it was ready to push. And so actually 5:35, it was just one contraction and pushing through that contraction, and baby was born.
So one
So
push.
it was one contraction. I think I
Okay.
pushed 3 times, did 3 pushes through that contraction. And
Okay.
so, yeah.
And then your son was born.
Yeah. Yep. And he was there, and I could tell right away that he was bigger than the other babies were. I was shocked by that for sure.
What were you feeling in those moments when he arrived?
It is just heaven, euphoria. It's just that you're done, that the baby has arrived, that you finally get to meet him, you finally get to hold them and see them after so long. That's the hardest part of pregnancy, is just the anticipation and having to be patient to finally meet this little being that's been inside you for so long.
Do you have any fears around birth going into it?
I would say the pain of contractions, just not knowing, because I never made it all the way through a whole delivery, all the way through labor without an epidural, and just wondering how bad they'd actually get. But knowing that I was going to be okay with an epidural didn't make it too scary. I even sent my husband home after I got checked in, because knew nothing was going to happen until after lunchtime.
When delivery happened, was there anything important to you during that time, like skin on skin or anything like that?
Yeah, skin on skin and the baby first nursing. And that was a shock too, that right away knew to latch on. Having a successful latch was something I was really wanting. That was pretty exciting, how well that first minutes after he was born.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
How, I guess you said you only breastfed for a week with your other daughters. How did you get through this time to make it different?
The anxiety kept me from breastfeeding. I wasn't comfortable with or trusting that my baby was getting enough, both girls, the first couple weeks, or not the first week. I don't even think I made it more than a week with either one of them breastfeeding. And so just to ease my mind, I pumped and then we bottle fed. So they still had breast milk because of the liquid gold. If my body was able to do it, breast is best, but also fed is best. I definitely kept every appointment with the lactation consultants and lactation specialists. And even, when I checked in at the hospital, they ask you, what are you most concerned about or wanting extra support for? I very much was communicating that. When the first one showed up after delivery, my milk hadn't come in, so there wasn't a whole lot that she could help with. They answered my questions and told me about different ways of holding, because that was one thing too that I was just unsure about, what's the different positions to hold and if I was doing it right with the holding. He has had a few bottles, and I totally failed him with forgetting about the different nipple speeds. So when I was testing out if he would take his first bottle, I almost drowned him. Because it was just using a bottle that a friend had passed on. And I was like, oh, yes, they come out at different speeds. I forgot about that.
You're just a little rusty.
We went home Saturday morning, and then I went back Sunday with the lactation specialist to check for jaundice, and then also on Monday. They were appointments checking on him. They were with the lactation specialists, and they just reassured me of what was going on. By that time, my milk had came in by the last appointment. And so that made me more confident as well that things were going to go well. And he gained weight. And so it was only a few ounces, but the fact that when my milk came in, he finally put on some ounces, that we were moving in the right direction.
Yeah. And how was your recovery?
My recovery was definitely the best this time than the other two. I didn't use ibuprofen or Tylenol. I used the natural supplements that just decrease inflammation and support gut health. I used them. I snuck them in the hospitals, and it was great. Constipation wasn't an issue after delivery. Everything was fine. I slept pretty good during the pregnancy, and so that was the biggest thing to adjust to. was not getting a whole lot of sleep after he was born. With my daughters, I would have to wake up and pump for them to be bottle fed, but my husband helped out a lot with them. I got more sleep with them. I remember one time during my second one, she was, maybe 5 months old, that there was a moment where I realized I haven't had more than 4 hours of sleep in I don't know how long. And I was just crying. And because that's what I do when I'm tired.
Yeah.
Luckily, this guy, about when he was a week old, I got a 5 hour chunk of time, which was pretty amazing. And I get him now. He does about 4 hours every night. And so when you get that, it's amazing.
Great. And
Mhm.
mentally, how's postpartum been?
It has been good. The gut health helps with the fact that our serotonin is produced through the gut. It is, and also 50% of dopamine. And then you get the good oxytocin when you're nursing. And yeah, I have enjoyed having this connection more. And I'm his favorite person. And I didn't experience that with my daughters because of the pumping and bottle feeding. It wasn't where they followed me everywhere in the room. And when I go to hand them over to my husband, like, he will turn away now.
So you think breastfeeding has helped with your bonding?
Yes, because when they're this young, food and sleep is really all they care about.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add about your pregnancy or birth?
Let's see. Yeah, I didn't have any swelling or anything this time after delivery when I didn't need Pitocin. The having the blood sugar control, really no longer being hypoglycemic, definitely helps my recovery as well. And I didn't need to snack during the pregnancy, and I don't need to snack now, even with breastfeeding. And that's because I'm not having big dips. And I suffered with those not only with previous pregnancies, but my whole adult life. I dealt with that. So
So do you feel like you need to eat more, up your calories since you're breastfeeding?
No, and with pregnancy, they say only 300 to 500 extra calories a day pregnancy, and the higher end is only just towards the end. And it's the same with breastfeeding, only about 300 extra calories a day do you need for breastfeeding. I remember with my first pregnancy, I'm a dietitian, but still it was just like, all right, I'm making a baby, let's just free for all, eat the food. Because it kept me from my blood sugar dipping.
Great.
So I have 20 pounds to come off, but so I'm only down 15, but I am back to running. I'm building the muscle
already.
So yeah, once I actually ran a week before I got my doctor's clearance. So they say wait 6 weeks before you have your doctor's clearance that you return to physical activity. I really am in tune with my body and would know if I was doing too much. I've been a lifelong athlete, so I did it at 5 weeks because it was National Running Day, and it seemed like it was a good day to do it. And I kept it slow, but still, I wanted to get back to moving my body because that's always given me just feeling my body be strong. It just helps me mentally, and I just like it. So I wanted to get back to it as soon as I could.
That's awesome.
Not with having 3 kids and being summer break, I'm only maybe getting 2 or 3 workouts in a week, but still, it feels awesome.
Okay.
And yeah, my body's still healing. And the hormones that allow your joints to expand for delivery is still in our bodies up to 6 months postpartum, and so you have to just respect that you had a wound that got flushed out, literally everything flushed out. So it's like a wound. And even though it is natural, you're healing from that, and your body's healing from what it just did. And so it takes about 10 months really to grow this amazing little miracle. So it's going to take time for the body to recover from doing all that.
Definitely. Do you have plans to have more kids in your 40s?
Because this pregnancy was so much easier than my others, that thought had crossed my brain because we had our daughters 19 months apart, and that was intentional so that they would be each other's playmates. They would have each other growing up. And during the pregnancy, I thought about how this guy is going to be all alone. But yeah, it's not going to happen. My husband absolutely says that's a big no.
And what do you think has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
I would say it's the social part of my friends that have children that have grown, that are grown up, and they're being at different stages in life. But your true friends don't care. And so they're there to help out and be like the extra mom for you. But it is limiting to social engagements. That's low on the priority list. So that's the only thing that I could say.
Is there anything you'd recommend that would help someone prepare for pregnancy and birth in their 40s?
I would say to not listen to those people who are think that will think that you're too old, because absolutely not. And your body tells us, if a body makes it happen in nature, it can happen. There's a reason why we still have our cycles at this age. And it's all about mindset. And if you're excited about it, then it's good. It's a wonderful thing. And as it should be, they're little miracles. And I am having a better experience with it at 42 than I did at 33 and 35. Yes, I have been through this before, but just all around in my 40s, I'm just at a better place mentally, at a better place where we own a home. So there's nothing, 40s are fabulous. I was feeling that even before I unexpectedly got pregnant, but even with being pregnant, it's fabulous. I am grateful that I've had that experience, because previously I wasn't sure. I had some friends that were in their 40s having babies, and I was just like, wow, you are superwoman. I don't know if I could do it.
Here you are.
Yeah, being a mature mom is the best. And you just don't worry about as many things.
Definitely. What advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
I don't know if I have anything besides ignoring the Braxton Hicks. I had false alarms going to the hospital with every pregnancy. They always understand, but I just think since I delivered babies before, that I would really know about labor. But I never had labor naturally happen except for my second one. So yeah, I don't know. I guess just be more patient for labor to happen, maybe.
And what advice would you give other women who are trying to conceive in their 40s?
To know that everything's in God's time and in God's power, and that it doesn't have any merit on your worth. It doesn't have any merit on you as a woman, with how long it takes to conceive. If you conceive or not, you are still a beautiful woman.
Perfect. And tell us, you are a dietitian. Where can other ladies go that want to work with you?
They can connect with me through Instagram, through just DMs.
Do you want to tell us what your handle is?
It's just at joy.jordan.
Joy, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Thanks.